Okay, I want to welcome everybody tonight. We'll go ahead and get started with the meeting. We're waiting for Jim Myers, and he's got a couple things to go over, so hopefully he'll join us. We will start with Molly with the Secretary Treasurer report.
I'm here, sorry.
You're okay.
All right, so for the financial report, I will go over the balance. The balance as of right now is $15,360.04. That is without a few checks that still need to clear. After those clear, that's going to put us down at $13,573.60. Most of the expenses out of that was for the attorney fees, and then we still have for the registry for the Mountain Niche that needs to come out. I also did a membership count for the year of 2022. For year 2022, we had 116 members, and then I broke that down. Majority of those members were farm accounts, actually, which I was surprised about that. But that's what I have for the financial.
You kind of cut out on us, Molly.
Was I muted the whole time?
No, not the whole time. You just kind of cut out there at the end.
Okay. So did you hear the membership? So we had 116 members in 2022. Right now, as of 2023, we are at 113. And I think that, yeah, we're at 113. And with that, I would like to remind everybody that you do need to renew your membership dues. Those will be, the last day is March the 31st for that annual year, and then we'll pick back up on April the 1st. So just make sure that you do remember to pay your membership dues that are coming up to renew everything.
All right, thank you, Molly. Also, you're working on a 2022 summary, correct, that you'll be posting?
Yes, I'll be posting the summary. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Molly. So we'll go ahead and move on. Walt, you have.
What does that mean, mostly farm accounts?
So, you have your singles and you have your farm.
The farm is the one that carries 2 votes per membership.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other input on that? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to Walt now with the update with the attorney.
Okay, not a lot new to report at this point. We've been working with them for some time to get our tax exempt status. And that's taking a little longer than I thought it would. It started out, we were applying to be a 501c3 organization. The IRS decided that maybe wasn't the appropriate status for us. And so we had to start over essentially as a 501c5 tax exempt organization. So we went through that a couple months ago. I got a message from the attorney saying he needed more information from us. We've sent him that information, and we're now just waiting to hear back from the IRS. Our attorney thinks this will be the final piece of information, and after this is approved, everything will be done.
Is there any kind of time frame on that, Walt? Has he given you any indication?
They really don't know for sure. It all depends on the IRS, and it could be a month, it could be 2-3 months. That we don't really know for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, keep us updated on that.
You bet.
All right, so the next order of business is the Danny Prater transfers. Molly, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I can talk about that. So with the Danny Prater transfers, we do have, I think, 4 hogs out there that need to be transferred. For those transfers to be done, we will have to vote for that, as Danny Prater is unavailable and has been for some time, but those animals have been gone from his property for some time as well. They were sold outright. Everything was done correctly, but that paperwork needs to be completed and not by Danny, as if he's been missing for quite some time.
Is there any discussion, any comments on this? I know we're talking about 1 hog to the Benders, 1
Yes.
to Walt, and 2 to the Schmitz. All of those hogs are properly ear notched, properly documented. There is availability of DNA if necessary, if anyone requests it. And so I personally feel these transfers should be allowed. Does anybody else have any discussion points they want to make on this or any questions?
No, I just want to add that that I do have the photos and stuff that do match the registrations for the ear notches.
We only have 1.
Okay, so there's 3 hogs.
Yep.
Okay, I thought there was 4.
All right, well, can I get a motion, please, in a second?
Motion to
just-
vote.
I was just gonna say that because I have one of those hogs, I would abstain from a vote on that.
Right.
Did you get a motion? I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Anyone opposed? I'm in favor of it. Molly,
I'm in favor.
Jim,
Yes,
Keith,
Yes,
motion carries. So Molly, let Mountain Itch know to go ahead and complete those transfers.
Will do.
Okay, the next order of business is Mountain Itch updates. Jim, do you want to go ahead with those?
sure. Well, the last I talked to Doug was that he was going to start working on the online membership and payment form the first part of February. And I talked to him again the first part of February, and he hadn't started it yet. They said it would be a couple of weeks. So that's the last update that I've had. I assume he's been working on it. I have not talked to him since the first of the month. So I need to do that, find out exactly where he's at and give him a little nudge. He's always behind. He's got more than he can handle. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not very far along on it.
Well, what's that? The greasy wheel gets the grease, or the squeaky wheel gets the grease?
Yeah. So that's about all I can tell you. It'll be a nice addition when that happens. We've also asked him to, since we did the census and try and update the registry as far as what animals are active and which ones are deceased or just out of production. I've asked him to change the member area so that when you click on your animal list and you look at the information about a particular animal, it gives you the option to add a picture there. I've also asked him to add the option to mark the animal as active or inactive or some other indication, so that we can, and so that we can, as members, update things without having to send in a census form every year. I didn't hear that.
Did somebody
Somebody
have a
ask a que-
question or comment? I guess I should ask, does anybody have any complaints right now with Mountain Niche and their turnaround time, or any concerns with the website that they want to talk about? Be a good time to speak about it.
I do know that the registrations were going like it was super slow. Then everybody sort of got theirs kind of quick, and then it got super slow again. I've had some out there for like months that have not been done.
Jim, do you want to kind of touch base with Doug on that and see if we can get some consistency with the turnaround time?
Okay. I can
That
do
would be great.
Another thing.
Yeah.
Another thing, so with we did have the census, right, that we put
Right.
out, and this just is picking off what Jim has just talked about. So right now I have 97 animals that have been turned in as active. I have 161 that have been turned in total. That's for active or deceased. One thing, if you are on here and you have not submitted yours, or if you have submitted it, please try to put the registration number for your animals on there. Don't just give me, I have 8 gilts that are alive. I need numbers so that we know what to do within the registry.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay. Jim, let's come back to you. Why don't we talk about Neogen and some of the things that we've been talking to them about to get some clarification?
Excuse me for one sec, if that's okay.
What's that?
Sorry, I'm on my phone. I couldn't figure out how to get it to my microphone.
Oh, that's okay.
Molly, like I saw your email for the the active and whatnot, but I fall into that also, that later category, that last question of registration. And so I've got, for example, a sow that needed to be transferred. I still haven't gotten anything back from anybody about that. And then I have a boar that was just recently sent in. And so do you want me to wait to put that in, or?
Yeah, just wait. And yours is one of those that I know is still, that's one of those that I was still talking about it's taken months that you haven't got. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
all right. So
I just need that to wait.
Go ahead.
I need to wait on that for it to be put in. That way I know that it has been accounted for, and I don't account for it twice or miss it. But
gotcha.
Yeah, but yours is one of the many that I was talking about that it's taken months to get done.
Okay. Well, not that I want everybody's to be super late, but I'm glad that it wasn't just me.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I think it's important that if anybody has any questions on this census, basically all we're trying to do is update the registry and have an accurate number so we know what we're working with as far as active animals within the registry. If you have any questions about this to get your updated info in, please reach out to Molly or to Jim, because Jim is our liaison with the registry. And if there's any questions or concerns you have, please reach out to them. So Jim,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. One more thing I wanted to add. Also, a lot of people are sending emails in, but they're not putting their name in there. And so I have to try to look up a farm, but if your farm has not been on your membership, I don't know who you are. If you just send me the 3 boars, 2 gilts, 8 dead. So I need you to at least put your name on the email. Thank you.
What's the response rate been? Are you getting quite a few responses back on that with the membership?
Yes. Yeah, I got a total of 161 animals so far. And I think out of that 161, I think it was around 22 or something like that members that sent them in.
So in other words, we're gaining, Joe, but we need to keep on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to Neogen. Jim, you've been talking to them a lot about that, about how their program works, about how they communicate, some other options with them. Do you want to go into some detail on that now?
Sure. Okay, so what we have done with the Red Wattle Hog Association, the agreement we have is to do parentage testing. That's what that's the only service we're signed up for. They have other services available, and you would have to go onto their website and ask you want to. Now all we do is it would be submitting for testing of parentage. That was what we had set up to begin with. That's one of the reasons we need to get the database cleaned up as far as what animals are alive and active, to get as many animals in the DNA database as we can. So there won't be any parentage coming back unless somebody, a member, requests that a parentage test be done, or there's a question about the parentage of an animal that is being registered, and then the Red Wattle Association can request that to be done. Since we are under the contract, the association and its members owns the data to that. So nobody else has any access to it without our permission. So the form, when you send in the application, Molly will get an email with the name of the person who sent it in and the animals that have been entered into the database. She will forward that information on to the person that sent it in to let you know that they received your samples. That's as far as it goes. As far as looking at markers, they do not put any markers on the papers that they return to us. We really don't have any benefit unless you're a geneticist and have the lab equipment to be able to do anything with those markers in comparing animals. So, I mean, It's impressive to see it, but it really doesn't help us out. What we're interested in is the parentage. So on another form, well, I think on the same form, it lists the animal that you want to put in the database, and then it lists potential dame and sire. So if we have a question about who the dame and sire is, we'll put in a dame and sire next to that animal and see if it comes back a match or not. I've been using these on my own, and I've got a whole list of boars that were in there, a whole list of sows. So I could send in an animal and just tell them to look at my whole database of boars and sows and find the match. And they'll give me a list of all the ones that don't match, and they'll give me a list of all of the boar and the sow that does match. So I mean, that's even a possibility. If you have no idea who the boar and sow is, they can go through the whole database that we give them, and they can find a match, and disqualify all the rest of them. But again, they won't show any markers. They will just show that which ones are the best possibilities for having a match to that offspring. And again, those results will come to Molly in an email, and we can forward those on to the parties that are concerned with the parentage. That's how it's going to work. I know that's not quite the way the UC Davis does it. They put all the markers on there. I don't know. Can anybody read those and have an idea what they mean? That it's, like I said, it's not much use, at least to me. I'm interested in getting them registered in there and finding out who the parents are.
So in summary, what this is we're building a database of all the animals that are turned in. So we eventually build a complete database within the registration, within the registry, and that way, if we ever run into problems in the future, we can solve those problems pretty quick. And right now, we're only requiring DNA on boars. I know that there's several people that have went ahead and done their whole herds. I know Matt Jacoby has. I know Brittany Harper has. I know Molly and I are going to. And Joe, I think you do too as well, don't you?
I had a few done with UC Davis, and I switched over to Neogen. I've had 2 boars that I sold, and that's all I've done so far.
Okay. We're not going to require females or whole herd DNA testing at this point, but I think we all have a common goal that we want to eliminate problems in the future, and DNA is the step to make that happen. While we're talking about Neogen, Matt, if you could, I know you talked to him about some other marker testing. Would you want to go into any detail on that?
Hey, Mark, how are you? The only
Good.
other test that I'm looking at, it's called Seek Gain. And when I talked to the lady there, she said that it can be done at the same time as parentage. Seek Gain is $25 additional for each animal, and it talks about performance trait DNA markers testing information from 7 unique genes that impact litter size, feed intake, conversion, weight gain, lean growth, fat content, and meat quality. So that's kind of where I'm headed, is to start trying to understand, what my herd what my herd numbers are and try to compare them to something. I'm not quite sure yet. I don't think many other people have done this test, so I just think at some point we need to get our herd tested like this so that if we're comparing animals, we're not just saying that, I have great meat quality, I have great litter quality. We actually have some numbers. So that's kind of where I'm headed. Parentage, selling registered animals that have proven parentage, and also seat gain. So we start to, get some numbers.
On that-
I think this,
On that seat gain for the meat quality and the other markers that you're talking about, do they have a baseline that they say is a good number to hit, or what do they have to compare it to? I mean, is there a high and a low range or anything like that? Do you know?
It's all new to me, Jim. I have no idea, to be honest with you. So I was going to get my numbers and then start looking around in the industry what it really meant. It's when I look at the animals that I'm butchering and I look at the loin eye and the size of it, and the marbling, and it's not broken up. I just, and the color of the meat, the color is determined, helps determine pH. I'm going to do the testing and go from there. But honestly, it's all brand new to me.
and I hope once you do the testing, you'll share it with the rest of us, won't you,
Of
Matt?
course I will.
And I want to add to that, the more data we can get for the breed that we can share with people, the better off we all are. I've been talking to Ken Prusa at Iowa State University, who has for years done meat quality testing and has organized and ran multiple progeny tests. And we're talking about doing the same thing with red wattles to get some data through there as well, to put us in a comparable situation to see where we stand. So, that's nothing that we're bringing to the association and offering yet, but it's something we've started talking about. So is there any other questions or comments with regard to Neogen?
What
My
is
only
the cost
comment-
of DNA testing right now?
I'm sorry,
What is the cost of the DNA testing for a
it's-
hog?
it's $19.50 per animal. UC Davis is $40 right now. Which is why we had went with Neogen, was because number one, they do a majority of the swine DNA testing in the United States. And number two, they're very competitive price wise. Any other questions or comments?
My only other comment, Mark, is, looking at the meat quality of the red wattles, I have to believe that the quality of the meat, that if breeders work towards quality, that there has to be people out there that want boars in a cross program that are willing to pay more than, what we're getting for 8-week-old or 6-month-old animals. So that's the other thing that I'm looking at is, if there really is true quality in these boars and in the meat, what value does that have in a cross program in a commercial application?
I think that market is an area that we, as a group of breeders, have not tapped into quite like we should. And I think there's a lot of possibilities there. So, okay, Keith, you want to talk a little bit about a new member packet, a mentor program, and a youth program?
Okay. For the member packet, we put together a welcome letter, a form that had information about the red wattle breed, a form on artificial insemination, the bylaws, the registration application, the Red Wattle Hog Association Board of Directors, the the registration rules and breed standards. That piglet information form that I use, the sow production record that I use, and then also the animal first aid kit form that has all the different, basically all the information to put together a first aid kit for hogs. And I sent that in. We have it there at the board so we can go through the welcome letter and kind of get it pounded out a little bit better. And then for the mentorship program, we put a post on the Hog Association Facebook page, and then we put up the mentoring application form there. So far, I've had a couple people interested in being mentors, but nobody's really, I haven't gotten any applications sent to me yet. And I have one person that I'm mentoring myself here in Ohio. Well, it's actually two. There's a person that I sold hogs to down the road from me that was totally inexperienced that I started to actually over a year ago. But that was separate of the program. And then we just started talking about this with the board, but the youth program, and I sent a couple messages to a couple people that I'd sold hogs to that are going to be using them with FFA and 4-H, but I haven't gotten any information back. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm wanting to maybe post something on our association page as well. They get information. Maybe like Joe McCabe should send me some info of what type of stuff that we you guys need for like that we could help out as the association for like youth for FFA, 4-H, stuff like that, that help the youth out with their 4-H and FFA programs. That'll also help spread the word about the red wattles. So I don't know, maybe, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Joe, but maybe you could talk to your wife or something and shoot me some ideas.
As far as FFA and our experience with that, or?
Yeah, like I know like your son showed his hogs last year at the fair and stuff, but like what we could help you guys out with it, that could also help spread the word about the red wattles with it.
Sure, I can touch base with her and get back to you.
Yeah, like what we could do to help you guys out with it.
Is there actually any kind of history that we know of people using the red wattles in the 4-H and all that? Because around here, I know they don't typically, they go with the faster growing hogs.
There's some people, well, like Joe, he's just putting them in with everybody else. But there are some fairs in the US that are actually starting up heritage breed classes. And then they're having separate judges that know heritage hogs that are judging them. But yeah, we actually have members that are just showing them in the regular classes though.
Okay.
And I just thought it'd be a good idea if there was some way that we could support youth that are showing them.
Yeah, and I agree. I've actually got somebody showing one of my crosses this year. But I would like to get more into promoting them actually showing pure red wattles. I think there would have to be a little bit of a learning curve with the feeding program because they do grow a little bit slower than the production hogs.
Yeah.
So what I've always heard with regard to people that are kids that are showing red wattles is that when they take them to the fair, they kind of max out as far as the interest in them and the questions in them and excuse me, what they bring to the table for individuals that want to raise hogs. And there's a lot of people that go to the fairs that have never heard of a red wattle or don't know anything about them. And that's their first introduction to them. So I think the more that we can promote that, the more that we can educate the people that are showing them, the better off we are. So if anybody has any ideas on this youth program, please get with Keith and let's see where it goes. Keith, how about the, you had talked a little bit about the program that Matt worked with you on. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Which one?
I'm not sure what you call it. It was where you received the pigs and such.
Oh, that was, I'd have to pull it up here.
Yeah, that was through Ali Leah and Ryan Salvis. Ryan is he was a vet from Afghanistan, and they have a business called Contemplate, and it's basically getting vets involved in farm activities. So Ali and Ryan reached out to me. That's how Keith and I got to be friends, about donating an animal. That's how we got Super Paisley, donating an animal there. And with all the stuff that was going on, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, but there was supposed to be some press there, and there was supposed to be some other stuff. It just never really came to fruition. It's a great idea, and it should have just gone a little bit higher, don't you think, Keith?
Yeah, but he got a hold of me. I'll be honest with you. Prior to me getting the hogs, I basically stayed locked in my house most of the time. It was actually him talking to me about getting the hogs, and I talked about it, but never really got anything going up until he kind of pushed me into actually doing it. Because, like, I guess once you got hogs coming on the way, I mean, you kind of got to get your butt moving to do something, you know? So, yeah, that kind of got me going with stuff and really helped me out a lot. But there's a couple different programs that I started getting involved in, and I would actually like to see if maybe we could get involved with them as a organization. Maybe once we get the stuff fixed with the flag program themselves, or maybe we could help maybe one farmer out a year to get going or something. They have a organization called the Farmer Veteran Coalition, to where it's totally 100% veteran farmers. That's it, the whole entire program. And basically they try to help veterans get going farming. So I thought it'd be cool if we get something going with somebody that wants to get going with the hogs, if we could like maybe donate like a boar and a couple gilts or something like that, you know. So I don't know.
So Keith, you're covering 4 programs here with the new member packet, a mentor program, a youth program, and a veteran program. So I think they're all very, very good ideas. I think we're on the beginning of these programs. If anybody has any input, any ideas on any of these programs, please reach out to Keith or any of the board. And let's try to come back to this in a month and see what we can get started and get going on these 4 programs. Okay, so the last thing that we have is, as most of you saw, Lance Perry had done a post talking about getting hogs to the Pacific Northwest. I've talked to Dustin Rice, and Dustin has spoken about this several times. I've received calls from Colorado, from Arizona, from California, also looking for breeding stock and looking to get started into red wattles. Lance and I spoke the other day on the phone. I don't know if is Lance here. He was having some connection problems. Okay, I know Dustin is here. We had talked about logistics and transportation, and I've got a couple trailers that are coming from the east and southeast in May towards Iowa. And I've talked to several breeders here in the Midwest that are willing to help provide some breeding stock options to the West Coast. We're looking at May and June to try to get some things set up and get some transports going to the West Coast. So before I have Dustin input on this, if you have an interest in helping with this and spreading genetics and getting them to the West Coast and everywhere in that region, please reach out. We're working on that now, and we want to get genetics out to everybody that needs them and wants them. So, Dustin, are you here? I think you're still muted, Dustin.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Having a little difficulty with Zoom and my telephone, but yeah, I've been talking about this for several years. Our geographic distance from most of you guys has been quite a challenge. And there have been a few of us in the Pacific Northwest struggling along as best we can. I know down in California, they have been blessed with some genes from past president that's been sending genes down there, but we've been having a hard time getting those kind of spread out amongst the West Coast folks. And of course, most recently, the newest flagging program. Actually, both of the flagging programs have done, I guess I wouldn't say damage, but it created a lot of challenges for us out here. For whatever reason, most of the genes we've been getting end up kind of being circled in the flagging programs. And I think this recent epic problem and flagging has I think basically flagged 90% of the stock that's out here in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, we I think I speak for at least 3 or 4 programs out here, maybe 5 or 6. We would do really well, and it would help quite a bit kind of growing the interest and the name of red wattles out here. If we could get some assistance moving some genes out here. I know Lance, I guess I would say Lance is probably on the forefront of, the potential of the red wattles really catching fire out here and growing. And I know he's been struggling and doing everything he can to get some genes out here. I invested a lot of money getting some initial breeding stock out here, but I I've been struggling with my endeavors, and would greatly love to have some new stock and be able to create some, be in a place where I could create some breeding trios, to, sell and move amongst people locally to kind of help grow those, our stock. And I know, and I've had quite a few conversations with people that dip their toes in the water, and then happen to have purchased a flagged animal or an animal that's been flagged, and kind of been struggling to move forward with the lack of genes out here. And so, yeah, it's a challenge because, faced with current shipping costs and feed costs out here, then also, spending money on stock, it's really cost prohibitive. So, I guess anything that the Red Wattle Association and community could do to help us out would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Dustin. So we've kind of got target months of May and June to try to move hogs to the west. Anybody that is willing and able to help with breeding stock and get those transported off to the west coast, please reach out to Dustin, to Lance, to myself, or anybody else on the board. We'll try to work on the logistics and get that all put together so it works for everybody. I know Brittany Harper has reached out and is working with Lance, and we really appreciate that. And we want to do our part to try to get stock out there. So please, if you've got any input on this, reach out and let's see what we can get going. Dustin, I would ask that you and Lance talk to the people out there so we can kind of get an idea what's needed, what's requested, and try to get that filled for everybody while we're doing this. So anything else on that?
Mark, I had a quick question on that. So is the plan to take non-flagged animals and mix them with flagged? Or are we talking about moving non-flagged animals out there and starting from scratch a breeding program?
I think it's important.
Are we going to
I think it's important that we do this in whatever situation is best for the people that have the hogs. If they want to start over, we need to figure out a way to make that happen. If they want to continue with what they have and breed it out, then we need to work with that as well. And, I guess that's on a one-on-one individual type situation, Matt.
Well, the only thing I would say, Mark, is that if there's people on the West Coast that want animals, I'm in a position here after spring fairing to have a large number of animals that can be shipped to the West Coast. And I'm willing to work with any individual breeder. My only concern is, prolonging the problem, mixing a non-flagged animal with flagged animals. And I'm willing to work with West Coast people on pricing so that it's not cost prohibitive to do it.
And I think I speak for everyone when I say that we really appreciate that. And, I think we can, as an association, take a stance one way or the other on that. But I think the buyer and seller both can. And I think that's between buyer and seller. So I think that's the way that needs to proceed.
No, I understand that. And I'll just say this to any of the people on the West Coast. You have interest in non-epic animals, reach out to me. I'm willing to work with you. I have a brother on the West Coast. It's not out of the realm of possibilities to do, my own cross-country trip. So reach out to me and let's.
Matt, if I may, I think that most everybody that's out here, I guess maybe barring one or two people, I think the goal and the understanding of the flag and trying to move beyond it is a goal. I currently don't have any flag stock anymore. I decided to kind of follow suit with the Red Wattle Association, and I culled really the only genetically dissimilar animal that I had that happened to be epic stock. I know that Lance, I think he's maybe home to the only double flagged stock out there that's current, that happens to be none such epic stock, which is kind of a pretty cool asterisk out there in history. But I know his goal is to move beyond flag stock. I think there are a couple people that might be holding on to, you know, the idea of epic stock, et cetera, et cetera. But I think there is also, to some degree, a reality for some of us that even if you were so kind as to help us out, the chasing $1,000 pig for breeding is a pretty difficult thing when, you know, a ton of feed costs $600. So there's some reality of economics that might come into play. For me, I completely agree with you. And I know that there are several people that do, but as overall, I think that, you know, the idea of moving beyond the flag stock is a great idea. And I think most of us are on that same page.
Well, I appreciate that. The only thing I would say is I don't need to get $1,000 per animal. Let's talk in a private chat and let's see what we can organize and get you some stuff out there that's epic free.
I have a question on logistics for the board on this. Are you facilitating the transport? And as far as the people out west that need these animals, are you going to facilitate the breeders and the people out west that need the animals so we know who to contact? Or so I potentially could put together a few animals to go out west, but I just need to know a few more details on it.
Well, I think that's a really good question, Joe. And, you know, like I said earlier, I know Brittany has stepped up and I know her and Lance have been working. And I know there's a lady that's coming back towards Iowa, bringing a boar to a boar stud out here that's going to have a trailer available going back west. And that's part of the transport that they've been working on. I don't want to step on anybody's toes that has already been doing this and started this process, but I would be more than happy to try to facilitate things, because I know you and I have talked about this, Joe, and there's several others that are on this meeting that I've spoken to about this as well. And I think it's important that buyer and seller work together, but then we need to try to have one person or a couple people try to facilitate the transports, putting the animals together, making sure that vet papers are proper and all of those things. We have some quarantine issues and biosecurity issues we need to get around too. So, you know, yeah, there needs to be somebody that's kind of in charge of this. And I'd be more than happy to, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes that's already started this process.
Because
I would completely agree. My comment about the $1,000 hog is mostly related to shipping costs. And I think in order to get a critical mass where, you know, say we have, it'd be amazing if we could get 12 to 15 animals out here this summer. That would be, I would be absolutely amazing. But the sheer logistic, biosecurity, especially for individuals along the way, and then, you know, the cost associated with transport can be extraordinary. So somebody, unfortunately, really, it can't be me, sadly, but, you know, somebody amongst the Red Wattle Association that could help facilitate that would probably be, you know, doing a valuable service.
Well, the best way to try to save money on transport is, number one, to get obviously more animals in the trailer, the more it spreads out the cost, number one. And the other possibility is a backhaul. If you've got somebody hauling to the Midwest, I think the Midwest is a reasonable place to facilitate the animals for pickup to go west. If you can get somebody from the West Coast that's already delivering something to the Midwest and they can do a backhaul back to the West Coast, typically that's, I know in my experience, that's about half the price. And that's what we do when we're bringing stuff from the East and Southeast is it's a backhaul. Basically, they're already coming to the Midwest and hauling cattle back to the East Coast. They're usually coming here empty, but for us, they're going to haul hogs and it's half price. So all those things can make this a lot more economical from a transportation standpoint.
I have a question on the
Hey, Mark.
themselves.
Oh,
When you're putting multiples together, I mean, with states and different laws, how does that work? Do they have to be separate in the trailer? Can you mix them all together? I have no idea.
Yeah, so when you get health papers, you're finding out what the requirements are to go to the state where they're going to. Okay, so you have to meet those laws. You don't have to get a health paper for Iowa that requires one thing and Nebraska that requires something else. It's just where the hogs are going, and that's what you need to have. Typically in a case like this where you're delivering multiple hogs from multiple places, you have a meeting point where you're putting all these hogs together. That's no different than a hog sale at the Iowa State Fair. And, those hogs are commingled, they have health papers, they've been tested, and then they're hauled out from there. This would be no different. It would be extremely important for the people getting hogs on the other end that they handle these pigs in the proper quarantine situation. Just because there's multiple sources. But the West Coast needs multiple sources. They don't need one source, they need multiple, so that once they get stock, they can work together for years and years to come with multiple different options for genetics already there. This is our chance to make that happen in one shot. So that's what we need to do.
Mark, I'm just going to volunteer here. I do think there should be some protocols on vaccinations, some other things. I'd be glad to work with Dr. Anthony from 4-Star Vets, and let's find out how many people there are on the West Coast that want animals. Let's find how many people want to donate animals, and then come up with a plan and also come up with protocols for vaccinations prior to shipping, quarantining, biosecurity, all the rest of the stuff. So I'd be willing to try to organize that with somebody from the West Coast.
So let's do this. Matt, if you want to reach out to the vets, I know that that's an extremely reputable hog vet that you're working with out there. He will have the right answers.
He will.
I would ask that anybody that wants to have an interest in sending stock, contact me. And I would ask that Dustin and Lance work on the West Coast, all up and down the West Coast, including the lady in Arizona. And they can kind of put together what everybody's looking for. We can get some prices together on things, and we can go from there. I know that's not official, but I think it's a good start.
Well, I think it's a good start for the West Coast. When we get that done, then we'll go to Canada.
I think that's a great option. Yep. Dustin, what do you think?
I think that's a great option. I just making a short list in my head could probably, if we could probably, let me see, probably there's 10 different farms around the West Coast that would be ecstatic to have at least one animal. And I think that we could probably, if you guys are referring to Canada being British Columbia, I think that we could facilitate cross-border movement pretty easily from out here. Because we are literally, states touching states across international borders. But I think, Mark, I think you nailed it. The critical aspect would be, if we had 10 farms getting 10 animals, it would be amazing if they were from 10 different roughly genetic lines, somewhat unrelated if possible. Matthew's offer of being able to help out would be amazing, but getting 10 hogs from him would be amazing, of course, but would also be a long-term disservice where, we have epic stock out here, and then I had 2 different lines, and that's all we have out here. And it's, over the last 5 years or so, that's still all we have. It'd be amazing if we could get 20 animals and they were, from a dozen different farms. That would be brilliant.
Well, let's put some things together here in the next few days. I'll reach out to all of you and we'll try to start a discussion between us to see what's needed. I would ask that anybody else that's interested in working on this project, please reach out. We'll include you in this conversation as well. And we'll go from there on it and see what we need to do, and we'll adjust as we go. And we'll do a target of, say, June to make this happen. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I might have a link on a transport.
Okay, that would be great.
I'm a member of a couple of horse transportation groups, and they go back and forth all the time, and they're always looking for fill rates. I don't know if they'd haul hogs, but I could ask around.
That would be great if you would, please.
I can do that.
Anybody else? All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to add tonight?
I'm still at work, so I probably ended up hopping in a little bit late to the meeting. In terms of Keith's program with 4-H and veterans and new hog members, one possible thing that would be really helpful, at least for me and a few people that I've spoken with, is a little bit of a program of marketing that could be put together by the Red Wattle Association to help out farmers marketing their hogs, to kind of grow the brand of Red Wattles across the United States, to potentially become the Black Angus beef of pork. And I think that would, for me at least, that would be very helpful to have some materials that would help me market my animals and not only brand my farm as a Red Wattle farm, but have people understand what it means to be buying Red Wattle pork versus a Berkshire or, some other hog. I don't know if that's something that we could talk about folding into the works over the next year, but I think that would be a really helpful addition.
Actually, we've started talking about a couple different marketing options for Red Wattles that I've been working on pretty hard here, and probably will unveil those in the next 30 days to 60 days. I know that Molly has been working on some promotional material that will go out to our members that they can utilize. We've talked about doing pamphlets that leave one section for each farm to be able to identify themselves and their information on this literature. We're not quite ready to put it out there so people can cuss and discuss it yet, but we're getting close, Dustin.
Great.
Before, because I feel like we're coming to an end. Keith, are you still on here? Keith?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I sent your contact to Alicia Allen. She's on here. She's the one that was just talking about the horse transport. I sent your contact info to her because she's part of the veterans thing or whatever that you are.
Okay. As far as my email, hold on a minute.
I sent her your Facebook.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else, anything else? So we talked about a lot of things tonight. We've got a lot of things in the works, and I guess I'll ask that, boy, the more involvement we can get from everybody on this, all of these projects, the better off we are. And there's a lot of positives here. There's a lot of people that are involved here tonight and a lot of interaction, and it's fantastic, and we just need to keep it going. So I guess we'll end the meeting, and I sure appreciate everybody's involvement tonight. And we'll be back to having these meetings once a month. We'll be back to having the pig talks once a month. Our last one went for almost 2 hours, and it was basically from the hip, and lots of great conversations and discussions about raising hogs. And I think we all that were involved in it enjoyed that night. So I hope that everybody will start taking part in these meetings and the pig talks as well. So I appreciate it, and everybody have a good evening.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.